Hello, and welcome to the Raising Athletes podcast. My name is Kirsten Jones. I'm a peak performance and sports parenting coach. And Susie and I started this podcast almost 5 years ago to help parents and their athletes figure out what's getting in their way, releasing it, and letting it go. And today we have an amazing guest who does this on the daily as both an athlete and a parent. And we can't wait to talk to Kerri Walsh Jennings. But before that, let my co-host introduce herself too.
Susie Walton, founder of Indigo Village, author of Key to Personal Freedom, how families affect our family lives. And I've been running parenting seminars for a really long time now. Now I'm getting my kids' friends who were little when I met them coming to my classes to take my parenting class. And I love what I do. I was an athlete way before Title IX, and I still chose to be an athlete without something like that for a goal. But I love sports. I consider myself still an athlete. 4 sons, 9 grandkids. They're all playing sports, and life is good.
And you're still playing beach too, right?
Yeah.
Yay!
Mostly bodyboarding. That's my newest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Atta girl.
It's amazing. Well, welcome, Kerri. Thank you for making time to be with us this morning.
My pleasure. It's such an honor to be with you guys. And your book is wonderful. And I'm so proud to have it. I'm so excited to dig in. And Susie, you're kind of a legend in my mind. I've just been hearing about you for so long, and your son and your family are just really inspiring to me. So thank you for you. And I love that you're playing and bodyboarding. And yes, we're meant to keep doing it all as we go.
Yep.
Right. And that's what we're going to talk about is as we grow up, as our kids grow up, as things change. I was actually just caught so with the Women's World Cup going on as we record this, Marta Silva, the best women's soccer player from Brazil ever, was in tears. I think it was yesterday, or I watched it yesterday, talking about how she grew up not seeing any female soccer players, that wasn't a thing, that nobody, she didn't know who to watch. There was nobody to watch on TV. And she goes, not only were there no female athletes, there were no female journalists. There was nothing there. So I thought maybe we could start with, as Susie alluded to, Title IX. You and I were both babies of Title IX era. What does it mean to you? And, who were your heroes growing up? What was the genesis of volleyball for you?
Title IX obviously has given me the most beautiful life. I've never seen a closed door, and that's, I'm grateful to Susie and all the pioneers who played, despite not having these opportunities, and who pushed and who pursued better for us girls and women. My life has been so beautiful because of it. And so it's been great. And, volleyball, I'm an athlete, by nature. My parents are athletes. Their parents are athletes. My siblings, my aunts, uncles, cousins. I come from that kind of background. And so growing up, I was like a whatever's in season, sports-wise kind of kid. And I played everything. And it was such a joy to play everything. Some sports were more uncomfortable for me than others. Some sports, my ego felt good. Some sports, my ego felt very challenged. But everything served me. And
what don't you do well? Give us an example.
Oh God, we don't have enough time. It's exhausting. But it was just so fun. It really was so fun to try, and I've said this before, but one of the biggest gifts my parents gave me in my childhood on up to even when I was in college, they were competitive athletes. Like while I was growing up, not in the pros by any means, but they were, they each played in college. My dad was semi-pro baseball, basketball. My mom played 3 sports at Santa Clara University. But they played very high level co-ed softball. They played in bowling leagues. And it was like the joy of my life growing up to see my parents want to kick ass and like fight to win and literally have infighting when they thought the team was slacking because they wanted to win so bad, And so for me, having that example growing up really allowed me just to enjoy sports and to not think competition was a dirty word or to shrink under a competitive environment. It really just kind of brought something out in me. And, my whole childhood, I was very, very quiet. And when I found volleyball, for some reason, it brought out my voice. And it brought out like a playfulness in me within the sports system that I hadn't had before. Before I was just really structured. Tell me what to do, I'll do it. I wasn't that intuitive or instinctive. And volleyball brought out kind of the hunter in me, along with my voice. And so I found that very early when I was 10. And I'm just, it's been wonderful.
Can you talk about your family dynamics with your parents? Was it competitive within, like Monopoly was competitive and everything was competitive with each other, or was it no, go out and outside the door, go compete with others?
I mean, I have a brother. He's 11 months older than me. I have two little sisters. No, it was competitive, and it was so fun. It's like we all just wanted to win all the time, and that maybe sounds exhausting, but it's I don't know. It was just the environment we were raised in, and I didn't hate it. And you become a creature of your environment, and that's your comfort zone. But it was just fun. My mom and dad were like early 20s when they had me, and I'm kid number 2. And so they were babies raising babies, and every weekend they would have family parties and barbecues, and there's music going, and there's volleyball being played, and basketball and horseshoes. And that's like the environment, and everyone was playing to win, and they'd be pissed off if they didn't. And so it was fun. It's good to have permission, to get permission by seeing other people doing these things. I've been called too competitive before.
Kerri, when you talk about that, it just brought that memory back to me. Like back when my kids were young, Bill and I would go down to the beach down in South Mission with Greg Lee and Lisa Lee every morning during the summer and play mixed volleyball. I always got Greg, so I always won.
Yes.
But the kids,
well, he got you, Susie.
Yeah, exactly.
The kids, we brought up that point. They saw us having fun competing, like from the get go.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing from you about your parents. Like you saw there was joy in competition. There was joy in playing a sport, and you wanted to win bad. Like we wanted to win bad, right? But there was always so much joy around and just fun times. And I think that's a huge piece. I don't know if we've talked too much about in our podcasts on that, like for the parents, what they're modeling, because 95% of what our kids learn is what we model, not what we say. 5% is what we say. We might say have fun and play hard, and then we're out there like yelling, like, not having fun. So It sounds like your parents and what we were doing on the beach was that same thing of just bringing in the joy with the actual competition.
Yeah, and it's not just obviously about the sport and watching your parents play. It's like for me it was like I saw into this different dimension of my parents. It's like they weren't the parents in that moment. They were like kids having fun or adults having fun, and I think that's so valuable to see. And that stat you just said, 95% of what we do is what they learn from, and only 5%. God, I need to, like, that just makes me want to walk better and do better. But I know that, I know my kids push back when I'm not being authentic, when my actions aren't lining up to my words. And I love that mirror for me. And in my childhood, absolutely, my parents were consistent, which is a beautiful gift as well.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that touches on is back in that generation, not only were you modeling it, but kids were then just allowed to go play and do it without. And I was actually talking to a mom the other day, and she said, my kid surfs, but we took her to the skate park, and she looks at me, and we get to the skate park, and she looks at me and she goes, I've never taken lessons. I don't know what to do. Like that. We are now raising this generation of kids that don't just watch what's going on, go out into the yard and try it. It's this, well, we have to sign up and we have to take lessons and we have to go to the no, like back to playing and having fun, right?
Everything's so structured, and it's such a bummer when it comes to sports. I think, I mean, even like learning how to like cursive write, like, I don't know everything. It seems like people need to be just practice and be an expert by the time they start. And that's such a disservice, and it's so sad. And that's why, like, for me in this household, in the Jennings household, like my husband, he just turned 48 and he is a kid. And he goes out and skateboards, and he, plays hoops, and he's so playful, and it's just so important. And I think it gives my kids permission just to go and try things, and it makes, I don't know when that turned, and I feel so bad for the kids who, it's hard enough to be a kid, and like, I remember when I tried out for volleyball, no one had ever touched a ball, and we were 10 or 12, and now everyone has like 2 years under their belts. Before they're trying out for the first club, which God bless them, it's beautiful in other ways. But I just know that how much you learn, and just like the depth of kind of experience and understanding that you get about yourself and about the craft itself, whatever sport or thing it is, when you have the courage to just play and be weird without structure is so invaluable. And I would love to help, bring that back to the kids.
Well, that what you're saying right there, Kerri, is so important because we're raising kids that don't know how to be self-directional. It's like, I haven't done this. I need lessons if I'm going to skate, right? Like
Right.
that's that mindset. And so it's not the free flow. Like you're saying, like my boys, like Luke, he didn't play in an organized basketball game till he was 10, but he played every day, all day with his brothers or anybody he could find that would play basketball with him. It was, there was never like, their dad never sat there and said, hey, because I'm a Hall of Famer, you need to take. Their dad never, ever gave them any kind of basketball instruction unless they asked. His whole thing was go get your homework done if you want to play anything. And that was like the message for them. Like, so it's that whole part of having our kids have the opportunity to know how to be self-direction. And they can't do that if they're always being directed. And, it's such a fine line between those two.
It really is. I wasn't allowed in the house as a kid. Like my mom just cleaned every day and she's like, get out, like get out to all of us, and it was like, and we're like, dang it, we'd have to sneak in for snacks. But thank God, and a couple years ago we left LA and we moved to Lake Tahoe, Nevada. And now I feel like we loved living in LA. It was so amazing. It's a trade-off, living around a big city, all these things. Living out here kind of with more space, we can tell our kids, get out. You're not allowed in the house, and go and be weird and go and be wild. And, and it's like that exploration, what you just said, Susie, is so important. And then just don't be a knucklehead, get outside, stay out, and be a good kid.
One of the earliest questions I always get, so I coach with Kristen Keefe, the 10, 9, and 10-year-olds, and they come, I've had multiple parents come hat in hand. Sorry, we're just getting to this and she's already 10. I know we're way behind, right? Like you're a parent of 3 athletes. What has been your parenting approach to what age to start sports? And unfortunately, a lot of places rec is dead. Like maybe it still exists where you're living. Unfortunately, in LA, a lot of places you can't even find a rec league because everybody's gone club, right? But what age do you start, and what age do you start only focusing on one thing?
Oh man, well we want to put that off as long as possible, for sure. The specialization within sport and within just only one sport. But so our kids, I started playing like organized sports in 5th grade, right? Like in grammar school, that's when kind of the school started having a team. And that's kind of when things ramped up for me. I started playing club volleyball very casually in 5th grade as well. For our babies, I think our boys, they've started playing AYSO at 7, and T-ball around the same time. And all 3 of them have been on the same trajectory. And then in 5th grade, they started playing with their school. We have consciously not had them play club volleyball or club soccer or club anything until our boys are 14 and 13. And this was their first year of club basketball. And it's just the longer I think we can keep them out of the system, the better. Not because we don't respect the system, but because I care about their spirits. I don't want them to burn out. I do not want them to specialize. Like that book Range, just the range that you develop as a human when you're playing multiple sports at a high level is just so valuable, so every time our kids are in basketball season, our boys, they're like, no, we don't want to play we don't want to play baseball anymore. We don't play soccer. And we're like, well, we signed you up. You're going to go. You wanted to play, 3 months ago. And so for the first day they complain. And then after day 1, they're like, yay, we love it. So it's just kind of having conversation before, do you want to do this? Because if you commit, you commit. We're not going to be flaky. We want to be reliable. And then pushing through that, that moment of discomfort when they like kind of rage back against us, but again, I want our kids to be very rangy. I want them to have a diversity of experience, whether it's music, sport, anything in education. And it has to be their choice to a certain extent. And then, to every extent, and then we support them and, make sure that they commit, because
I love
important.
what you're saying there, Kerri. For parents out there listening, you have that conversation with your child. And once they say yes, they are committed. You want to show them the calendar for the really young kids and say, what you're talking about is that you're going to be doing soccer for this many weeks. So you got that yet? Or karate or whatever it is, right? And then they commit. I've had parents say, well, my kid won't go to practice. Like I have a grandson who went to practice for 3 soccer. It was his first soccer, and he was 8 at that point. And he sat on the sideline because he was just, I don't know, he just didn't want to be with the group yet. And his coach totally let every practice, Patrick, you want to go out and start kicking around? He goes, no, not yet. And like the 3rd weekend, he did it. And then the coach like, oh my God, we need him this weekend. We don't have enough players. And that weekend he took off, and that was it. But just to even allow, he had to go, but just allow him to sit on the field and watch the other team, players play their thing. And, you can learn so much. A lot of those kids, they learn best by watching first.
Oh, man.
They're not the ones that are going to jump off a bridge first. You know what I mean? Like when everybody's jumping into the river, like they sit back and the observers need that time. So parents out there, it's okay for them to sit on the sideline. They just need to participate. They need to be there physically.
Absolutely.
Drive up to the car at a karate and sit in the car so the child can look through the window. Like you're still going. We're not backing up. You committed to this. And that's a big one for all you parents.
I love that you said that, because that's a rep, that when they're sitting on the sidelines, like thinking about diving in. And I mean, your sweet grandson, like I can feel the like anxiety in his heart watching, but that's what a beautiful space that, the coach and the parents held for him, and that's so important too. And I think as a parent, to me, I love hearing that because it's like, you're right. Each kid is so different. And I do not want my kids to be forced into anything. If they need more time, I need plenty of time sometimes, and if they need more time to observe and to make sure that they feel safe, like God bless them. I love that they honor that within themselves,
And what you're also speaking to, Susie, is atomic habits. So the power of habit. And even as an adult, even when we're trying something new, James Clear talks about, you want to lose a bunch of weight, you want to start working out in the gym. He's like, put your clothes on the floor by the door every day, put them on and drive to the gym. And maybe for the first 30 days, all you do is go to the gym, walk around the gym and go home. But you're forming a new habit, right? Which is what we're talking about is the habits. We don't get to choose our outcomes. We get to choose our habits and the things that we start to model for our kids early on, that this is what I do. And he had a client that lost 100 pounds and he started by the first 30 days, he never lifted a single weight. All he did was train his brain that I am the type of person who does this. Right. And that starts the general, slide into a new habit. That's great.
Absolutely. I'm going to have some children walking in behind me. So just so
good.
You know.
That's what we're talking about, you.
On cue. We got Joey and Sundance walking in. So
yeah, everything they want to add, please invite them in.
Oh, how funny. Yeah, they'll decline, but they have plenty to say. I'm sure.
So around family habits, actually, to talk about, my father was this amazing man who usually, it felt like now in hindsight, we'd come to the dinner table and he would just take a big, huge topic and throw it on the table that would make us all uncomfortable. And we would discuss everything, right? And it was this great forum for how do we learn? How did things, I know some families use roses and thorns, like what's going well, what's going not well. And, I been around enough USA volleyball that they have path to the podium everywhere when you walk into a gym, which the athlete in me loves, but the parenting coach in me is like, is this only about winning? Is this only about getting to the podium? So as an athlete, you've been to the podium dozens of times as an Olympian, as a collegiate athlete. How do you parent? Like, how do you approach things when there's something that's not going well, whether it's athletics or not?
I think we certainly focus on attitude and effort in all things, and those are controllable, variables within the whole, system. And so, that's just where it is. Like for me, knowing, like living for my whole life as an athlete, like I know every challenge that I committed to getting through made me better. Every injury, every time I sat on the bench, every time, I had a terrible game, like it made me better because I chose for it to, to poke me in a good way, poke me to learn more about myself, poke me to ask my coach for more help, or to train me in ways that I felt vulnerable. And so for our children, like literally, it's not how many points you scored. If they're so obsessed with offense, gosh, I scored 25 today. We're like, well, how was your D? And were you supporting your teammates, and how was your attitude? And, Sundance, when you were on the sideline waiting to go in, you were cheering your teammates so hard, and even though you were so sad you weren't playing, like you were such a good teammate. And so we revolve around that. And then it's just like kind of the conversation of greatness takes time. If you do want to be great, babes, right? And they go, yes, of course. Okay, well, then you have to show up every day, and you have to have a good attitude. And the path to the podium, like the podium to me is like a metaphor, right? It represents a lot of things. And there's a lot of things, not just winning, that goes into, winning being on top of the podium. It's your attitude, it's your effort, it's how you communicate, it's all the soft skills that make you laser sharp. And so we have really a lot of conversations about the intangibles, because both my husband, Casey, and I know that it's not a linear process. You're like all over the map, backwards, forwards, but even within the nonlinear process, there is no regression. We certainly believe that everything is there to serve us, even if it feels like a back step. Nope, that's serving you, and so we really try to have our kids, kind of come from that framework. And I mean, they're babies, but they're doing good. And they're so inherently like, I just don't want to mess them up.
Get out of their way.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And just hold space for them. And just, when they need to be loved, I love them. I mean, I love them always, but I just always want to be there for them and just to encourage them. And I think encouragement is a lost art, not encouragement to go and be the best on the team, encouragement to do your best, always, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, just to go and give your best.
Just to bring out that best part as the parent thing here, the thing is, we're always doing our best. And sometimes our best looks 50%, and sometimes it looks like 150%. But in that moment, we are doing our best. And so to really look at that, like that was your best today. Yes, you struck out 3 times, and you whatever, but that was your best.
Totally.
Now, if you want to do better, what do you have to do differently? Or what could you do differently to make that, even better? But you did what you could, and that was it. Yeah. And well, like when my son came home one day and he was mad, he got a C in a spelling test, like in 4th grade. I'm like, okay, I can see that's not what you wanted. So what could you have done differently? If that's not, you didn't want that C. Well, I guess I could have studied. Okay. And if you studied, what might you have gotten? He goes, an A or probably a B. I'm like, so you know what to do if you want a different grade then, right? Yeah. And that was the end of the conversation. But that was after I took parenting classes.
No, I know.
My firstborn at all. You said potential. Why don't you know what I mean? And then I learned tools in my little parenting box, and the 4th one got a whole different story going on. So
no, seriously, God bless number ones.
Oh my God, bless number
They're
one.
the guinea pigs.
I'm so glad I'm not number one.
I know.
Which if we relate that to sports, right? The dreaded car ride home is the thing that we talk about all the time, right? These poor kids who hide behind their friends because they don't want to go get in the car. What is your approach to, okay, the team lost, your kids stunk up the floor, they're obviously upset, you're upset because you're a competitor. I mean, how do you handle that?
I'm definitely learning as I go. And both my boys who, play more sports than my daughter right now, but they're not poor losers. They hate losing. And I love that about them. They can take it, but they hate it because you cannot buy that. You cannot train that. I think it's a beautiful thing. So, with my oldest, he doesn't want to talk. And so I just, we put music on and it's quiet. And then, after about 20 minutes, he'll ask a question, what do you think about this? Did you see that? And, so we definitely kind of, at least I definitely kind of just let him start the conversation when he's ready. My son Dance, he's 13 and he's so sensitive. He's so sweet. I just want to scoop him up, be like, baby, you're okay. It's okay. This is part of it, and it's kind of the same thing, just holding space. And if they're ready to talk, if they want to rage immediately and complain about the refs or complain about playing time or, whatever they want or celebrate, like whatever they want to do, I kind of follow their lead and just kind of look for ways to support them and really hear them, but it's hard. And it's, because what I've learned is that like I get caught up in the game. I'm a cheerer, you know, I can't help it. I love it so much. And if the ref is bad, like they're going to hear it a little bit. I think it's like psychological warfare when the refs are bad. I think it's so confusing.
Is it harder for you to watch or to be on the court? Would you rather be on the court?
To watch times 100. However, when the game's done, I'm done. Like, I'm so happy. And I'm like, gosh, that was a repetition. Like, whether it was a championship or game one of a tournament, I'm like, you guys, those were free reps at getting better. You know, I know you want to win this tournament. You didn't win, but my gosh, look how far you came and look how many chances you got. You had to like practice being nervous at the free throw line or practice being nervous, you know, taking the corner kick, whatever it is. That's kind of how I see things. And so it's really fun. You know, my kids, they really do love it and they really do want to be excellent. And what I really want to challenge them to learn is something that I learned very late in my career, is that like where you think you're terrible or weak or you're failing, like that to me is untapped potential. And potential to me is the most exciting thing in the world. And so if I can kind of try to guide and educate my kids to be like, okay, I'm weak here. Oh my gosh, so exciting. Let's go to work, you know, and those are the kind of things that we're really steering our kids toward. And then it takes away, you know, this little like molehill of a thing doesn't become a mountain because they see this molehill as potential, you know, and that's a beautiful thing to me.
Oh my God, I love that, Kerri Walsh.
Like, I do too.
Say that again for all those parents out there. Can you
untapped potential? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, well, it's just where it's at,
you know, in that way, you know, a weakness, so to speak. Like that's untapped. It's like,
well, that's growth mindset, right? Yeah.
You know, look at Andrea as a flashlight. It's shining a light on a situation that you now have an option to do something different about, but you can't do it unless you first feel that anger. So that's a flashlight, but that untapped potential on oh my God, what a mindset. That would be a different from my sporting life.
Well, start now, Susie girl. You're still playing. You know, it's so I had like I think I mean I've had so much support, you know, through my performance psychologist, my coaches, my teammates. I think I kind of learned how to pivot to that mindset out of survival. You know, it's just like I like in one Olympic cycle, I just felt so exposed all the time, and I felt like all of my vulnerabilities were just on display, and it made me so uncomfortable until I was like, shit, like. Stop minimizing yourself. You know what you're doing. You've always had these gaps in the game, and that's been your funnest part, like improving yourself. And so when I really like flipped the script on, you know, weakness equals potential, like it was so liberating and literally became so exciting. I remember I figured that out. It was like a tournament in Germany, and I was like, okay, that feels better. Am I lying to myself? Am I BSing myself just to make myself feel better? No, this is right. I've lived, you know, 20 years of this. And then the next week I went and got my eyes tested. And they were terrible. Like literally, they're like, "How are you a pro athlete? Your eyesight's terrible." And I'm like, "Can you train it? Can I improve this?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Yes!" Like the world's in trouble, you know. So that's what I really want to give my babies, because it's the truth. If you're willing to work, you know, and to be brave enough to be vulnerable and exposed, which is the path of self-mastery, you know, every time you level up, like you feel like an imposter 100%, you know, so this is not something you arrive, like life is not about arriving, you know, it's about becoming and growing. And so it takes the pressure off of parenting. To me, takes the pressure off. Ideally, I hope to take the pressure off my kids as they go on their journey, because it's the truth.
So I love peak performers like you, and talking to you, what you're thinking about when you're in those amazing moments, because I'm working with a lot of high school athletes, and they'll say, but I hear that voice and she's telling me you're going to miss the serve or you're not enough. And so a lot of the work I do with teams is around mindset and I am statements and affirmations, and what we focus on expands, and we're creating our own reality. So could you talk about that? I'm sure these athletes would love to hear you talk about, like when you're down, you know, in the third, you know, then everything's on the line. What's going through your mind?
I mean, so much, but my whole goal is just to be in the moment. You know, I've worked with my performance psychologist, Mike Gervais, for a long time, and I've learned so much from him. And one of the things I learned, he said, Kerri, confidence comes from one place and one place only. And he's like, it's not your mom who loves you so much and believes in you. It's not your coach who encourages you, your teammates who thinks you're incredible. He's like, because those people will go away. Confidence comes from the way you talk to yourself. So self-talk is critical in the quality of your life and the quality of your performance. But it has to be credible self-talk, right? You can't be having a terrible game and be like, you're the best, keep working. I got it. That can't be your thought. So for me, it's like when times are really hard, I do a couple things. I definitely take a deep breath. I really try to slow my heart rate down, slow my brain down by taking a deep breath. I was trained to look far off into the distance. If you're in a gym, look as far away as you can. If you're in the beach, look as far away as you can, because that like literally opens up your perspective, because generally when we're stressed, we get tunnel vision. And so that's kind of like a breath for your brain when you look far off. And then if I'm in a funk and I recognize that my self-talk is critical, I just become neutral. Let's go. Let's do this. I'm here. Like not you're the best, like you're going to nail this, because, that would be shaky. So for me, it's like, let's go. I got it. But something that helped me so much, ladies, Gervais taught me, like we had played in this tournament and I came home, like over in Europe, and I came home and we had a session in Hermosa Beach. And I was like, Doc, when there's this moment, it's a big serve and it's a big side out, like I feel this way. And when this happens, I feel this way. And he's like, Kerri, he's like, hold on. He's like, you need to recognize the way you talk about things. Because like you said, the way you talk about things is like, it's everything, you're either going to allow yourself to, enjoy it or to be like enslaved by it. I'm a very big believer in law of attraction. And so he's like, so A, be mindful of your words, right? He's like, you're stressing me out. And this tournament was a week ago in Europe and we're in California. I was like, okay, noted. And then he said, Kerri, there are no big moments. It's just a moment. And that was really hard for me because I'm like, no, you're wrong. Like side out point, gold medal match, that's a big moment. And he's like, nope. He's like, it's just a moment, and this moment is going to lead to another moment. So your goal is to be present, right? So let's find some hacks to be present. And then he said, which this changed my life. He's like, are you a competitor? I'm like, hell yeah, I'm a competitor. He's like, focus on that. When the moment feels big, just tell yourself I'm a competitor. I'm here to compete. And it gave me chills. I felt like the elephant was off my shoulders because I know regardless if I'm having a good day or a bad day, I am a rad competitor and I cherish it. And so now in those moments, I'm like, just compete. And it makes me smile. It makes me smirk actually, which is like, a good thing. So that would be something that I would encourage your athletes to try out, just think about the competitor you want to be and remind yourself in the moment you're there to compete. And it's a beautiful, beautiful gift to yourself.
And parents who are listening, we also are putting that on them when you have to get into this school. Well, you have to pass this test because your whole, right? The pressure that they're feeling about everything no, it's a test. It's a moment. If you don't get into that school, your life is not over. Yet these kids are getting this, used to start in college. Now it's starting in, got little 10-year-old girls that are worried about being recruited 8 years from now because they're stressed. Like my parents are saying, if I want to get recruited, I have to act a certain way. Like, no, you've got to be in this moment, be present, be mindful. Yeah. I love that.
Well, and like Susie said, like your job is to just do your best, and as parents, we need to just recognize that our kid just needs to like do their best effort. And if we have the resources to support them on their journey, that's wonderful. But they do not have to do anything, have to ace anything. Like if we all think back and close our eyes and think about our journeys, like the positive and the negatives, everything has served us and everything has led us to this moment. And we cannot deny that in our kids. Like I want to feather my kids' nest every single day. And I try to do that by encouraging them and reminding them that they are capable. Like they have everything right here to be and do and have whatever they want, but you're going to have to push through things. And so, yeah, I just like, God bless all the parents out there. Like this job, man, it's not a job. It's such a gift. It's so daunting because there's so much love. And for the parents out there, I just want to encourage them to hold their kids' hand as they go on their journey and love them and just encourage them to do their best. And when you see they're slacking, call them out, but don't create like this jail of pressure that they don't need, because it's not the truth. Like fear is such a liar, and anything created in fear, is inherently weaker. So if we can kind of go through and see the greatness in our kid and encourage them to keep cracking the egg, which a lot of people, like we talked about, like showing up at 10 years old thinking you should know the game at a tryout. No, life is about cracking the egg. And if this doesn't work, I'm going to try this. And if this doesn't work, I'm going to try this. And I learned that from my husband when he plays, because Casey's 6'2", we're the same height, but he would play against giants, right? And his mindset is, I'm going to crack the egg. Okay, if my line shot doesn't work, I'm going to try to tool him, on the inside, and I'm going to try to take off his face. And whereas for me, if I got dug, I'm like, oh my God, they're on to me. And it's like such a limiting thought. So for us, again, for us parents to encourage the kids to crack the egg and to remind our kids that they have so many tools in their toolbox, us parents being one of their tools in their toolbox, to me, it's so liberating.
So I'm going to take that step further. Kerri, what you're saying, holding their hands. Parents, it's like when your kids wanted to walk. You helped them up, you held their hands, but then you let go. And if they fell, you gave them your hands, you lift them back up, and then you let them start walking and you let go. You didn't keep holding it and holding it and holding it. You got to let them have the experience of falling. And that's the thing in life with our kids. You help them up. You want them to make mistakes when they're living with you. You don't want their first mistake when they're off in college somewhere. You want them to be messy. You want them to blow it a lot and just, forget hand in homework or whatever it is. And then you get to be there to help them up again and hold them for a few steps, but then let go. So it's important that you let go. You can't keep holding your parents out there that are listening.
Experience is the best teacher, right? They need to do things, and they need to do things as it is in real life, and we can be in the background and love them. But yeah, you're right. You have to let go, which is so hard.
So hard. But then it's cool that they have us there to pick them back up. That's the part. Without yelling, without making them feel bad. You didn't yell at them. You didn't say, Kerri, when are you going to learn to walk? How are you going to fall? Or when are you going to learn to ride your bike? We're like, come on, sis, you got this. You become their biggest cheerleader. Come on, get back up. You got this. And that's what they need from us, not just tearing them down.
Yeah.
I can hear my client's voice in the head. Well, that's nice. And you're positive and that's great. But I was parented, the opposite way. And it's really hard for me to get out of the way. I'm a snowplow parent. I'm in there. I've got friends who are in there with the principal, changing the kids' schedule, right? They're calling the school from across the country when the kid's in college to sign them up for different classes. Like, how do we help them? Or what do you do when if that's your weakness?
Well, I think awareness is a superpower, right? And if you kind of acknowledge it to be a weakness, then yay, there's potential there. And then I think sitting with that and being like, well, what type of parent do I want to be? Right. And I have no idea what I'm saying right now, but this is kind of the process that I would go through. Yeah. If my parents, which they weren't, were gnarly and were helicopter parents or did everything for me, or, would yell at coaches if I had a tough game, and that didn't feel good, it'd be like, hey, well, what's the alternative there? And how would I like to, now that I'm a parent, live this, and I just, I think when I have a pet peeve to a certain extent of people say, well, you're positive, like it's easy for you. And it's like, well, it's a choice, right? All of this is a choice. And that is the beautiful free will we have in every single moment. That's why you can go from a terrible day to an amazing day in a moment, because it's a choice and we can choose to pivot. But I think the question, it all starts with awareness, right? Mm-hmm. So the moment you can train yourself to have awareness, if something isn't sitting right or feeling right, have an awareness of what that is, and then you can choose. Right. But if you get caught up and you don't have that awareness, then it's like, like a dominant or a big snowball getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But something I want to say before I forget also, just about parenting, and it doesn't fit right in this conversation right now, but it fits for life, is that someone told me, when your kids are most unlovable, that's when they need your love most. Mm-hmm. And so, and I know that for me as a human, like if I'm in an a-hole, I need love. Like I'm in love. And so I think, I say that because I want my fellow parents to have that awareness. Like if our kids are being a-holes, like that's a cry for help. Right. And they don't, I'm certainly not a great communicator all the time. And so, and they're younger, they have less reps at communicating their needs and their worries. And so for me, it's like, there's so much tension and stress in life and sports, as on the path. And if we can have that awareness of how we're responding to a situation and realize we can pivot and choose, and then to have an awareness that if our child is acting up or being, angry or lashing out like that, like have an awareness around that and ask yourself, what is that? And then you can choose. you know, and you don't need to have the answer. You can just go along the, you know, walk with them, and the answers will come to you. They always do.
Yeah, it's like people in general, kids, adults, everybody. If we're feeling good about ourselves, we can't be mean or unkind. Like what you're saying, Kerri. There's more to it. I just worked with a couple with their 14-year-old son. He is that kid, you know, and I'm like, you guys, he's the oldest of 3 kids. I'm like, he already knows the story. He knows he shouldn't talk to his brothers like that. He knows all that. There's something more going on for him. There's somewhere where he's not feeling important or valuable or loved or whatever it might be, and it may have nothing to do with you. He's almost 15. He's got a lot in his world. He plays, you know, soccer and a whole bit. So focus more on building back like the emotional bank account that Stephen Covey talks about, like with relationships. Like add some deposits, do some one-on-one with him. The kid is asking for help, but in a way that you can't hear it because it sounds so mean. And so they both went, oh, they knew that, but they just needed that reminder that when our kids are just off the chart, stay quiet and be there for them. Do that one-on-one. Just take him outside for a moment. Like if he's on his brother about whatever, just say, hey, let's go outside for a minute. And you're not taking him outside to lecture him or tell him what he's doing wrong. You're taking him outside so he can create a space where he can get back to who he is.
Yeah.
And so,
well, and sometimes, just to riff off that, Susie, sometimes it's like, I think as parents, we're afraid if we don't give them tough love in that moment, they're going to perpetuate that behavior because they don't know, you know, well enough that that's not okay. When I think it's, like you said, it's such a counterintuitive move to love them in that moment and to give them that space, you know. Certainly as an athlete, like if we're injured and we kind of show vulnerability, that hasn't been accepted in my whole life, you know. So that the element of self-love and like loving yourself through a process is so vital. Like that allows for sustained play and joy and growth, you know. But if you don't have that self-love from within or from our support system, the parents, then it's just going to make, you know, a challenging situation even harder.
yeah.
And so I love what you just said. That's
Well,
really
you know,
important.
that 14-year-old listened that whole time, doing this process a few days ago, and he didn't say much, but he just sat there like taking it in. And when he got up to leave, he came up. I was just going to shake his hand. He's like, he just gave me the biggest hug. I was just like,
Oh man,
that just speaks volumes.
Because he felt seen.
Yes,
right.
He
Seriously.
was hearing. Yes,
and that's all we all want, right? I just want to know I'm enough. Yep. And that's why 70% of kids are dropping out of sports altogether, because I'm not enough, because I didn't win, because I wasn't the star, because and all our kids want to do is make us happy and make us proud. And when they think they're not living up to that, the subliminal message, like you said, Susie, it's probably not even conscious, is I would rather opt out and have your love than keep trying and failing.
Yeah,
right?
Well, that's that.
And
whole
they're babies.
How much money sports parents are putting into sports. They don't even have to speak it. They're so stressed out about all the money, and the parent, you know, the kids feed off that. But so that part in itself is just another whole topic. But yeah, just to be present for them, and for you parents, like, well, they need to know not to be mean to their brother. Okay, yes, but that conversation takes place in the neutral time. When things are neutral, not in the moment when they're being mean to their brother or yelling about whatever. That, like, kind of like you're talking about, you know, Kerri, like monitoring that ride home. Like, when is a good time to talk about the situation versus just putting it out there in that moment when emotions are still up and running.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, I think like we just talked about awareness and giving our kids space and loving them through it. I think it's really important that we remember that our kids, they're babies. Like, they're so young. Like, in that, I think we forget, because kids today are pretty mature. You know, we live in Tahoe. I'm so grateful because my kids are able to be kids here. And that's a big deal for me. You know, I lived in a bubble until I was 18, and then I went to Stanford, which is its own bubble, you know, and it like served me really well, you know, and I really value that. And I think sometimes we forget that. And I think it's the outside pressure, obviously, that we allow to come inside. But yeah. And then also something I just want to mention, like when the kids are misbehaving, like something that I do for myself that I've been doing with my children, I'm like, how did that feel? You know, you just ripped your brother a new one. How did that feel? And they're like, oh, not so good. So again, it's like the awareness thing, trying to create awareness around a tough situation. It allows you to take control of the situation because again, once you're aware, it's your choice. You can't hide behind it. Like there's no going back. And so that's something that I know each of my kids, when they're justifying their poor behavior, I say, well, how did that feel? Even if their friends are treating them badly, like, how does that make you feel? And what do you want to do about it? Let's talk through this. But that's a really powerful question in our house.
And what you talked about earlier, which is, so it starts with us. If that's something you personally as a parent struggle with, how are you putting on the mask yourself first? What are you doing in the morning? What are your routines? I have a whole chapter on mental toolbox, right? We first have to be aware of it, and then we have to put a process in place. I think either you set out to have your day or you let your day happen to you. So if by the time you're in the traffic and you get cut off and the kid's late to practice and they come out and they're in a bad mood and you just reflect back to them how you feel, right?
Yeah.
As Susie likes to say, I need a do-over. I didn't handle that well, right?
Yeah.
But if I can say, and never day's going to go perfect, but if I can at least be intentional about how I'm going to set out about my day, and then be aware of when I'm not being my best self so that I can apologize in the moment, then then there's no building up of the dam. It's like, okay, great. And they see you model it, right? That's how they're going to treat their friends.
And for some parents out there that don't know how to model it, and they're like, well, it wasn't done to me that way. In those moments, parents, what you can do is just stop for a moment and say to yourself, if that child of mine was me and I'm with my parent, how do I wish my parent would handle that? And then you'll get a good answer. And then you can go that way. Because sometimes parents are like, I don't know what to do. Like, well, then stop for a moment and think, how would you like to have been handled if that was you? And then take it from there. Like, trust your instinct, trust your intuition. We got it all. We just need to bring it out.
And on that kind of mindfulness tab, before every practice, before every match, I set an intention. I set it with myself. I'm going to, bring this attitude, this energy. I set it with my partner, so we can kind of set the tone together. And so when things get wonky, we can go back to that default. We committed to this. This is what we're doing. And I think as a parent, like, what a beautiful thing to start your day with, like, just specifically with parenting. Today, I want to be, a patient parent. Today, I want to be the parent that, is playful with my kids, and again, like, the more we do things, the more we practice them, it just becomes our habit, and so, but I think we all get so caught up, and I certainly do. And I've never actually done that with my kids, like, being, what kind of parent do I want to be today? And I feel like I know that would be such a powerful habit to do. And then I think I would get creative with it, patient and loving. And then I would be like, oh my God, I'm going to be the one who's adventurous and let's go somewhere, and I think that would be a wonderful, tool to add to the kit.
And for you competitors out there, you want to be that patient parent, and then all of a sudden you're yelling and you're like, oh my God, it's only 7:30 in the morning. But as a competitive parent, you want to, like, mark that down. Well, at least I made it 7:30. Maybe tomorrow I'll make it 1:45. Like, you guys, you don't go out and run a marathon when you decide to run a marathon. You run maybe a mile or two. And that's the thing with these these tools that we're giving you. Break it up. I don't think it's going to be you all day long. It's going to take a while for that training to take place. So, acknowledge how far you did do it in that one way, and then compete again another day to try to pass that up. That's how I do life. I love to make games and compete with myself on things because I'm just such a competitor.
And you make it fun and playful. Like, that's so. That's why you're still competing.
At least I made it 7:30.
Right? Try again tomorrow. And that's what I say. I have a little mantra. I love you. I bless you. I forgive you. I release you. And a lot of times we need to forgive ourselves first so that we can move on. And when we say, I didn't do it perfect, it's okay that I didn't do it perfect. We have this generation of perfectionism going on where these girls, particularly because of social media and all this, they're feeling all this pressure that I have to be perfect. No, you don't. We're just asking you to go take a swing. And wow, when it didn't go well, oh, that's interesting. How did that happen? All right. It's I love your reframe, right? Oh, let's learn from that. There's an opportunity in there, and that's gold.
It's gold, and something else to add on to that. And again, this is like for on the court and off the court. On the court, again, kind of similar to the potential, like, when things get hard, I start to smile at it and be like, oh yeah, like, this is going to be fun, and instead of, like, sometimes, like, oh my God, like deer in a headlight, you have all these emotions, but I've trained myself to smile. Like, when the score is tied, I smile at it now. And so now, even off the court, like everything to me is a gift. And I say thank you a lot, even in when I like want to rip my husband's, face off, or like I'm so angry at my kids. I'm just like, eventually when I can have that space to have awareness within, I'm like, thank you. Like I just learned so much from that. And I know that sounds so hokey. It's so powerful though, and it's just, I've made a decision on who I want to be in this life. And so I want every area of my life, parenting, athletics, being a wife, being a woman, being a business person, I want to embody who I want to be in all these situations. And so when I'm not, or when I find myself, like the other day I was arguing with my husband and I literally smiled and he got so mad at me, but I was like having like, this is game time. Like, thank you. This is exciting. And I'm going to learn from this moment, that's funny.
Oh my God, I love that.
Oh my gosh. He did not.
Yeah, right. Put a pin in that.
Oh my
Well,
gosh.
Kerri, we knew you were a gold medalist on the podium, but we didn't realize you were a gold medal parent. And so this has been so amazing. Susie has one last question for you, but before
you're a gold medal podcast.
Yeah, this too, right for us. Yeah.
Well, we could do a whole course on this thing here.
Right?
I'm always good to my teammates, you guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
We might need to revisit this again.
I'm here.
All right. So when I was dreaming about this book 7 years ago and what the title should be, people were like, "Oh, it's raising pro athletes. It's raising gold medal athletes." No, empowered. Yeah. If I could pick one word I want my 3 children to have, it's agency over their destiny, right? So when you think of empowered athletes, what does that mean to you? What does it mean to how you want, if we could wave the magic wand and we're here sitting here 20 years from now and your kids are all grown and you're reflecting on, wow, this is what I'm most proud of. What does that look like to you, do you think?
I mean, I think you just really nailed it. For my children, what I want them to be always is empowered. I want them to self-source their love, their confidence, their knowing that whatever's in front of them is there to serve them and they can get through it and they'll learn from it. Those things are the most important things to me. And if you are not empowered, if you do not have that level of ownership, over who you are and like know thyself. Like I want my kids to know themselves, because then if they truly know themselves, they know they got it, and I know it's going to be a long time until I can like stand firm in that and claim that. But to have an environment of empowerment and encouragement, I think allows for that. And so for me, again, I just want all the good stuff in life to be self-sourced, to not wait to be saved, to not wait to be loved or to feel lovable. Like that needs to come from within, because then it's unconditional. I'm a big fan of Abraham Hicks. And the goal in life is to be unconditional in your life and not to let the outside circumstances determine and dictate how you feel on the inside or how you maneuver. And that's what I want for my kids and for all kids and parents, for that matter. Because it's a beautiful way to live. And it's obviously very challenging, but it's possible. And you do it by repping it out every day.
Susie, you want to close with our last question? This is beautiful. Oh, so much fun. Susie, you want to ask her the last question?
Yeah, I'm still sitting in all that. I'm like,
she's glowing.
You're cute. Well, it's mine. I wish it was mine. There's so much stuff out there for us parents, It's like,
here's your last question for you, Kerri. We like to ask this to all our guests on our podcast. How would you finish this statement? The best athletes I know do this.
And you can say parents too, interject whatever, parents or athletes.
The best athletes I know do this.
Gosh, the first thing that came to my mind was consistency. So whatever they do it consistently. So I don't know that one in between. I think it's so hard. I want to say I mean, damn it.
It doesn't have to be one thing. It can be multiple things too.
Okay,
we're open.
So much. Like, okay. Well, so they choose. Okay. Their energy is an optimistic, can-do energy. And that's a choice. right? That's their mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how big this wall is, I'm going to climb it. You know, I don't care how big that blocker is, I'm going to hit around him. So that can-do positive attitude and energy is ginormous. Like if you want your kid to go from a 10-year-old, you know, athlete to a college athlete, like that attitude of positivity, is ginormous. Consistently, obviously, not just once in a while, but consistently. And then the athletes who every day give their best. I mean, it's kind of as simple as that. You know, like you said, Susie, sometimes your best is 50% of what your best is, but they give all every day. So I think the athletes who give their all every day with a positive mindset, they're consistently.
All right.
Those are the best athletes.
Great. Thank you.
Right. That was a long way to get there.
No, it's so beautiful. We have just adored this time. And again, it's so fun to, I think, as an athlete, watching you and admiring you for years, seeing you compete on the court, but knowing that the work that you're doing. I think it's easy to see somebody from the outside and say, oh, it's easy for her. Yes, you were blessed with height. Yes, you were blessed with natural athletic ability, but that does not equal success. Success comes from the showing up, from the consistency, from doing the work. Just like us parents, you know, some of the best parenting advice I ever got was don't have one 90-minute conversation, have 91-minute conversations, right? So the more that we can keep showing up as parents and being there for them, not if, but when the headwind blows, so that they can know they're enough. That's it.
That's it.
Boom.
It's so good. You ladies are rad. Love it.
We love you. Woo! This is so much fun. Okay, I know we need to let you go. Sorry, we'll zip it up.
I have physical therapy right now. I'm on my way.
Thank you so much. I'll let you know when this is coming out. But if you would be willing to share it, we would be so grateful. We're doing this a lot, and parents who are listening, have so much fun out there, trying, failing, allowing your kid to stand back up again, getting out of their way, and having your own joy, creating your own fun around what are you modeling?
Absolutely.
Susie, any last thoughts?
Yeah, like that smile. Smile when you're in that moment of like, just smile like, okay, game on. Come on, you parents, your competitors too. Like, game on when you're stuck with your kids doing something versus like, oh no, they're making me crazy. No, get that smirk on there. Get that smile. Like, game on. I can do this.
Yes, hard times don't mean bad times,
right?
No. You know, so I think that's an important reframe too. You know, hard work has got such a bad rep, and it's like, no, it's a joy. Choose it.
Yeah,
so good.
Thank you. Parents, please like, share, comment, send us your thoughts. We would love to have other topics on that you guys find relevant. So thank you so much. Susie, let's do this.
Oh yeah, let's do
love
this.
You. we still 4.5 years later, we're still not doing it at the right time. But hey.